experience, knowledge, all about ERP projects. Okay. So just give us a minute, and then I will introduce our today's guest, and then we will have question answer session in between, and he going to share his knowledge. So get ready for that. Okay, my name is Shumon Prohit. I am your Oracle ERP coach, and I can also help you in some of the areas that you would like to understand. Okay, yes, so we see Pankaj joining from Singapore. Welcome, international friend, Pune, Delhi, Bangalore. Great, great, great. So, thank you, friends, for joining on Sunday evening time. I understand it's your family time and you taking time out and joining this. So, we have almost 18 friends joining, 18 people joining on this live stream. So, let me introduce today's guest. Give me a minute. Okay. Hey, so friends, I'm very happy to introduce you with Ramaswamy VK. He's from currently he's in Bangalore. He's having tremendous amount of experience. I would say like 2 decade or more than 2 decade experience in Oracle and ERP project management. So he's super senior for all of us. And this is a great opportunity, and we feel privileged that he's available and he's open to share all his knowledge, all his secrets, and all his learning with us all about Oracle ERP. So, guys, if you are interested, I need some energy from you guys. So, please type, yes, I am ready. We are ready. Some sort of this comment. We are ready. uh, I need see some comments with saying I am ready or we are ready to start this session. Great. So I see some comments flowing in. Great, great, great. So guys, feel free to type in your question in between. Do like these videos, and if you think that this is useful, immediately share this with your friends so that more and more people can join. Next 30 to 40 minutes is all about you and ERP project, ERP learning. So welcome, Ram sir.
Yeah,
Welcome to
hi.
this Facebook Live. Hi. So now
Hello.
we are live. Yes. So we are live on Facebook streaming now. And just as I will ask you to just introduce yourself, give us your brief journey about, your professional journey. And then we will, start today's topic, and then, we'll go in flow.
Sure, sure. I have prepared this presentation. So I will start off my presentation itself. It covers my ERP experience, everything. So let's do it in a very structured way. So I'm sharing my screen. Can everybody see my screen now? So Shimohan, because I'm not able to
Yes.
see you, you have to
Yes.
be my
Yes.
icon. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, you can continue. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramaswamy. So today we are going to have this session on best practice and success formula for ERP. So I'll start off by giving a this is the agenda for the day. I'm not going to show you all the slides. I have given a link to the Google Drive location of this entire presentation if you want to download. I will run through each of the slides, focus on some of the points that I think are most important for this session, and then we'll take questions and answers. And of course, you can type in your questions on the way. So let me start the session. So the first part of the session is introduction to the presenter, that is me. Then we go into the topic. How do you define a successful ERP implementation? Like what are the criteria? Then what are the critical success factors? And then what can I do? In the sense, what can you do? I presume that if you can type in what is your role, whether you are a consultant, whether you are a project manager, whether you are a customer who is implementing or planning to implement ERP, if you can put it like that, then I will be able to get a like brief glimpse of the audience profile. Anyway, I have slide covering all the three of them. Let's move on. So here, my name is Ramaswamy. You can see this here. You can call me Ram. I've been implementing ERP application for the last 20 years. I started in 2001. Actually, January 14, 2001 was my first project, kickoff. So it's almost like Shiv told, it's almost 20 years since I've been doing ERP implementations, and I've been doing only ERP implementations. I've not been doing like pre-sales or creation of user guides, those kind of or material, those kind of work I was not doing. I've always been at the client side, always been implementing ERP, and I have been implementing mostly core ERP applications: procure to pay, order to cash, manufacturing, financials, budgeting, encumbrance accounting. So all those core ERP I've been doing. I've worked on like implementation. I worked on upgrade. You can see it. Next sheet will tell. I'm very passionate about ERP. So I have published a book on ERP titled Selected Articles on ERP. So at the end of this presentation, I have a bonus for you. Please wait for that. Regularly blog about ERP at my blog, that is ERP Consultancy at blogspot.in. Regularly contribute to discussions on ERP. I create discussions, contribute to discussions on ERP. I publish in my blog. My blog is reasonably active. I used to publish every week one post on ERP, but in the last 6 months, since I was busy with the project, I couldn't do it. But now I'm planning to restart that ERP blogging in a big way. So my credentials, I started in 2001. I told you I have worked in different roles, including consultant, solution architect, project manager, delivery manager, and head of IT. I was actually a CIO of a company for about 3 years. The role I love the most are solution architect and project manager, and even consulting, in the sense that some complex issues or requirements to be handled. I have experience in all areas of life cycle, including pre-sales. I worked in pre-sales for a few 1 year or so. Implementation come pre-sales, vendor evaluation, setting up help desk. These are all activities I did as a CAO. Implementation, upgrades. I worked on multiple ERP applications, including Scala, Microsoft Dynamics, PeopleSoft, Oracle EBS, and Oracle Fusion. I've implemented for many industries. I've worked in many different countries. Mostly my favorite area is LATAM. I spent about 4 years in Latin America and Mexico. So there I did implementation of Oracle Process Manufacturing, and also one upgrade from 11A to R2. Going to the next page, so I graduated in mechanical engineering in 1986, worked in steel industry. I was working in Steel Authority of India till 98. Then in between, I took 2 years sabbatical to do MBA program in finance from Calcutta University. I came to Bangalore in 99. Steel industry, I was working in Durgapur in West Bengal. Came to Bangalore, worked for 2 years in a management institute as a faculty in finance and IT. I've been working in ERP from 99, in the sense that the management institution where I was teaching had an ERP program, so I was actually part of the faculty in that institute. Then in 2003 to 2006, I did a postgraduate program in management from IIM Bangalore. And here are my contact details. You can see it. I'll be sharing this presentation so you can see it. So I'm very active on Twitter also, but mostly Twitter is non-ERP. My ERP activity is in LinkedIn. So this is my LinkedIn profile. So this is a small background about me. Let's jump to the topic. So how do you define a success? I mean, when we are talking of success of ERP implementation, we have to know what is the success parameter. Unfortunately, in ERP implementation, the success depends on who is evaluating. For a project manager, the criteria will be sticking to the cost and time. Business will consider meeting their KPIs and process standardization across business units as a criteria of success. For CIO, it will be post-implementation stability. Even in business also, CIO will have a different expectation. CEO of the customer will expect critical BI reports and quick return on investment as a success criteria. End user will expect ease of data entry, exciting user experience, and availability of operational reports as a success criteria. Your own, if you're a consultant, your own organization will expect a different criteria, maybe customer satisfaction, maybe learning, maybe new knowledge gained in the project as a success criteria. You as a consultant will have a different success criteria. So the success criteria, there is no single success criteria from the perspective of ERP, and that is what makes ERP very challenging. And most of the time, the ERP projects go into a challenge because of the lack of appreciation of these different expectations. So now I'm going to the second slide. Next slide. So what does the data say? Quickly, let us look at the data. The data is not very positive. Only 42% of ERP implementation, as per various studies, I've reviewed multiple writings on this topic. These are all posted in my blog with the reference articles. 30% did not even know whether their ERP implementation were a success or a failure. That's very, very interesting finding, because this actually tells a lot about the way we start implementing the ERP. We don't set the expectations. We don't tell them that what we are going to deliver. We just go there like jumping into a running train. We just go sit in the customer's office and start with requirement gathering. Successful ERP implementations are even now a minority. That is where we have an opportunity as a consultant. I'm presuming that many of you are consultants or project managers, so I have tailored my presentation mostly to you. There are a couple of slides from the customer perspective as well, which I will quickly cover. So what are the critical success factors for ERP implementation? Now, there are two approaches to implementation. One is a top-down approach, where we start with the reports, and then you analyze the information requirements of the customer, and then having understood the information requirement, then you start your requirement gathering, and midway in your design, you focus on the information requirement as you go about the design. So that's a top-down approach. You start with the report requirements. This is the best approach. This is the approach that will definitely lead to a delighted customer. However, unfortunately, most of the implementations start off with bottom-up approach. One second. Don't be so illogical. I'm sorry, there's a disturbance in the background. Bottom-up approach, most of the implementations follow this approach. Like I said, we start off with the requirement gathering. We just go sit at the customer site and start off with the requirement gathering. As the project plan also talks about that only. Project plan also doesn't talk about looking at the review of the reports and all that stuff. It is projects should make it explicit that we should start with requirement gathering, looking at the reports. So somewhere in the early stages, we should have this review of reports as a part of your requirement gathering sessions. Then what happens when you start with requirement gathering is ERP implementation ends up as an exercise of mapping the current process into ERP. That's all what happens. Many of the key information requirements, because we didn't even look at the reports, many of the key information requirements are given a go by. Even when the implementation meets the success criteria, customer is not delighted. So you will have all the requirements document, all the requirements configured, shown, process playback or customer demonstration done, user training done, but still customer is going to ask you, oh, what did I gain? This is what, when I was CIO, this is what the business manager asked me. That, okay, sir, we have done all this implementation, but what is business getting out of it? So ultimately, what happens is the ERP ends up as a cost center. So every time you talk of investing in ERP in the management meeting, you will be talking about how to reduce the cost. Whereas ideally ERP should be a profit center. ERP should add so much value, get so much cost benefit, get so much process standardization that ERP should end up as a profit center. ERP should meet its own, deliver its own cost and above. I have seen this happen. I have seen ERP providing huge benefits. But in my experience, I've done about 25 implementations. In my experience, that is very rare where ERP is giving a lot of benefits. Ultimately, ERP ends up as just a back office data entry application. Anyway, that is what we should not allow to happen, and that's the purpose of this session that we are talking. The bottom-up approach is like starting the construction of channel tunnel from Calais to I think Waterloo, hoping that it will end up at somewhere. So I'm not very happy with bottom-up approach. Even if you are doing the bottom-up approach, because most of the implementation methodologies focus on bottom-up approach, but this awareness should be there that ultimately we are going to implement a reporting system, not a data entry system. So that awareness has to happen in the mind of project manager, in the mind of consultant, everyone. That's where we'll add value to the customer. So now let me go to the next one. This set of slides, I will just quickly skim through. Before that, I just want to take a pause and see whether we have some questions that I need to address.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Ram. So, guys, if you have any questions, I see we have a lot of project managers joining the sessions, business analyst, solution architect, so different community people. So, sorry, guys. So, feel free to type in your question. So, before we go into next section, Ram can take those questions immediately right now. So, if you have any questions, let's take those questions. And Ram, I have one question actually in my mind.
Yeah, tell me.
Because you have seen, a pre-internet or pre-mobile era of project management, right? Means like now we use Zoom, we use mobile, we use screen sharing tools and all, right? In 2000 or 2002, 3, 4, all these things were not there. So what changes you see in project management that time, in ERP project management per se, and now, like how you see that shift or those kind of changes from client point of view, from consultant point of view, from as a project manager point of view?
See, frankly, I have not seen a lot of change. Ultimately, the requirement gatherings, requirement and the definition, I mean, the design of the solution, these are all application technology independent. So in the last project which I was implementing on Fusion, towards the final phase, the hypercare phase, we did it completely on working from home. So it worked quite well. I mean, we delivered some very high-end solutions working from home. Barcode scanning we implemented, all working from home, where people were sitting in different states, Andhra, Maharashtra, and we were able to deliver. But only thing is that I think mobile availability and availability of streaming has made the task of the team difficult, in the sense that you are supposed to be available 24/7, 365 now. Customer can anytime call and anytime tell. You don't have to go to the office to log on. So that is the challenge.
Customers know you have mobile phone, you have email configure on mobile phone, you have laptop, you have
Exactly.
internet connectivity, so they know
Exactly.
that, and they know that cloud environment doesn't need VPN access. You can directly log in and troubleshoot issues, and even ticketing system are online. So
Very true.
I see one question from Pankaj. He's asking, what are the drivers behind choosing the approach? Like, what are the drivers behind choosing the top bottom approach or bottom up approach?
Yeah, I saw that question. There's no driver. You have to, in an ideal implementation, you have to go for top-down approach. Top-down approach is where you add value to the CFOs and the CIOs and the CEOs. Bottom-up approach, you are going to add value at the most to the user and to the manager. So, and bottom up approach, the problem is if you don't factor in these report requirements at an early stage, you will end up just creating a system that replicates what you are doing now. Just creating an AP invoice, an AR invoice, or a posting. That's what will happen. There, the ultimately management needs intelligence report, and even in reports also you have to realize that there are three types of reports. One is intelligence report, one is tactical reports, and one is operational reports. Operational reports, the user is the data entry operator who is sitting. So he will want to know how much quantity I have to enter, how much quantity I have entered, and all that. Tactical reports are mostly managerial level, mostly at the end of the month, comparing the performance of various, machinery or various vendors and various customers and all that. The business intelligence report. I'll give you an example of a business intelligence report. Like uh, in a company where I was working, we had this logistics application. So it was high on exports. So they had OTM implemented, and then just one manager wanted to he was a very enthusiastic guy. He wanted to analyze the demurrage charges that they give, and he found that the total, the actual number of days one round trip should take is 21 days, whereas they were taking almost 40 days. So 40 days he analyzed step by step where the delay was happening, and he was able to cut down that. He was able to, in one shot, he was able to bring it down to 21 days,
Okay.
and the cost saving was almost 50 lakhs per month on demurrage charges alone. So you can see that, that itself, that one benefit itself took care of all your ERP cost for the entire year. So so that's where the reports are very important. And it is difficult because it is challenging, but that's where we have to take the challenge.
Right, right. Yes. So Sanjay is asking another question: how a consultant can go with bottom-up approach, starting from reports, and until and unless a consultant does not know the current business process of company as its
Yes.
process.
Yeah, correct. That's a very good question, actually. I'm not saying that on day one you ask for report and sit on reports. I'm
Right.
saying during the requirement phase, factor in reports, factor in the standard reports. In Fusion, you have all these OTBA reports and all. I'm saying at the beginning itself, you should start thinking about reports. I'm not saying you provide solution for reports from the day one. I'm saying keep that report. You are implementing an ERP solution which is for reporting. It's not for data entry. Most of the consultants think that we are entering AP invoice, AR invoice solution. It is not that. AP invoice you enter to see who is the how many supplier disputes that we have had, how many supplier vendor returns we have had. These are the information intelligence available out of the data that you enter. So if you are focusing only on AP invoice entry, you will miss the wood for the trees. So make sure
Okay.
to factor in reports. be aware that you are implementing a reporting solution, not a data entry solution. So consultants have this in mind. They have this idea that okay, I will help customer to enter AP invoice, AR invoice, bulk upload of receipts, all those things. But all of them are not going to add any value to the customer. You know,
Okay.
so
Right.
as a consultant, you have to add value. Okay, so let me move on to my
Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
So this section is a little long, so I'll quickly go through. So I'm saying for success factors, these are the 5 phases: preparation, planning, testing, training, and stabilization. These are the five phases in any ERP implementation. So in each of these, what are the success factors? So you can see preparation and planning are being done by the customer, not by the consultant. Starting from requirement gathering, testing, training, stabilization is where consultant is coming in. So since we don't have customers, I don't know whether we have customers in this group. I will just quickly go through it, and I'm not going to spend time on this slide. I'm just going to scan this slide and make sure. So here, what I'm talking about is 2 things. One is the current process and the future expected process. This you need to be clear. It's not the future expected process. It doesn't mean that it is a process to be followed in ERP. What is it that you want out of the system? That's what you have to do. Do not replicate your current process in the ERP system. It's not like an extended version of your current system. ERP system has many benefits which you should take advantage of. So in the future expected system, you will say, okay, we want this to happen, and these are the benefits that we envisage or anticipate out of this future system. So that way, you should approach it. Customer data, everybody should focus on data, whether it is customer, whether it is project manager, whether it is consultant, whether it is solution architect. Everyone should have focus on data, because an ERP implementation, there are three key activities that will ensure that your ERP implementation will not fail. It may not succeed from the customer's perspective. It may not delight your customer, but if you focus on 3 areas, your ERP implementation will not fail. One area is solutioning for the critical requirements. The second area is configuration. Configuration also you have to be very careful, because some of the configuration can be irreversible. The third aspect is data conversion. If you have converted your data properly, and if you have configured the system for configuration also, it doesn't mean, I'm not talking about configurations like payment terms or delivery methods or anything. I'm talking of configuration of organization structure, configuration of chart of account structure. These are all things which critical things which you need to spend time on. Most of the consultants spend a lot of time on operational aspects, like how to configure India localization, how to configure AP invoices, how to configure many of those things. If you have your configuration right, customer will somehow manage to live with whatever is your given. But if your data has not been converted properly, unfortunately, in most of the implementation that I have reviewed, data conversion was the single most cause for failure. So data conversion. So I am very particular about data, and customer has to start the data cleansing activities. Data cleansing. What is the data cleansing that the customer can do? There are a lot of inactive customers. He can, in the existing system itself, they can review the inactive customers and discard them as they bring in. There are a lot of inactive transactions. Let's say an AP invoice which was created 2 years ago, which has not been paid. So those things and all you don't have to bring into your new system. So start looking at those aspects of the data. And the data is very and as a consultant, as a project manager, as a solution architect, I'm very particular about data conversion. I know that if I get data conversion right, everything else will automatically fall in place. And if I get it wrong, like in my company where I was the CIO, the data conversion had gone horribly wrong, and it took almost 3 years for the application to stabilize. It took 2 years for the first year closure. So, data conversion challenges have major ramifications, especially in the localization environment. Because compliance report, income tax department is not going to wait for you to stabilize your ERP system. So, data conversion is very critical. In the preparation phase, this also has to be done by the customer. Get a good demonstration. I mean, don't go trust the vendor. Just expect the vendor to demonstrate some of your critical. I mean, I'm sorry, I have to go to the next slide. In the planning phase, uh, um, planning phase, the critical aspect is of change management, because you're going to have to restructure your organization, have to identify new roles, you have to realign your existing resources, you have to identify key users for your project, planning for the transition of resources to new roles. All those things take a lot of time, so customer will have to plan it very properly, establish a PMO. And this is very important. I'm very particular. Like data conversion, another thing I'm very particular about is communication. There is nothing called excessive communication. Every communication is important in ERP implementation. So communicate is the mantra of success. There are some 7 characteristics for a consultant to do. One of them is listen, and one of them is document. So this is part of communication. So I will skip it. If you have any questions, I can answer it later. Let me go into the next one. Testing. Here comes the your implementation teams, consultants activities. We have different types of testing. You know that. I'm not going to get into all that thing. Here, this is most important. Test for errors, exceptions, controls, and validations. This is where your testing will become very strong, and test on production data as much as possible. These two are very important in testing. If you look at most of the test scripts, test documentation that you have, you will always see that the general transactions are being tested. Like you will test how to create an AP invoice, or how to create a payment. Those kind of things you will always check, but you will never check the exceptions. You don't never check if I create this error, if I make this data wrong, what is going to happen. For example, in India localization, if you validate and then apply prepayment, it will not work. So you have to first apply prepayment and then only validate the AP invoice, at least as of in the current version of Fusion. So these things are exceptions which you will not test. You will so focus on testing, focus on exception testing as much as possible, and controls and validations. Like for example, what happens if this amount is more, less, or whatever. So this is very important. Also, ensure to test the reports and documents. If you create an AP invoice, you take a printout of the invoice from the system and see that the data has come correctly in the reports. If you create a material flow, print out the GRN document and then see whether the material receipt has happened properly. So this should be a part of your testing. But if you see, most of the test script do not have focus on these outcomes of your testing. They just say, okay, you do test. But exception testing and looking at the reports and document, many of the your ERP implementation methodologies, due to time constraint, probably doesn't focus on. Training. This is very important. This is where a consultant can add significant value. Do not plan for a lot of time for training. I mean, it's not formal training in most of the implementation, maybe for about a week. But as a consultant, you have a lot of opportunity to provide training. Your first opportunity to provide training is when you give multiple options to meet a requirement. Customer will say, I want this particular thing, I want this India localization, custom duty to be handled. So you can say, okay, there are three ways of doing it. These are the three ways, and these are the positive and negative implications of that. That itself is actually a training. Without you knowing, you are actually taking the customer through the application, through the process, so that they are learning it at that time. Second aspect of training is where if a customer says, say for example, a customer says that okay, I'm facing this error. This is I'm 100% certain that most of you are doing what I'm going to say. That customer will say, okay, when I'm creating an AP invoice, I'm seeing this error. Now you analyze the error and you find that that error has happened because period is not open. What you immediately do is what you are doing is you will open the period and say, okay, issue resolved. That's a one line issue resolved is one line email that you will send to a customer, please test. Customer will say, okay, issue is resolved. But has anybody benefited out of your solution? Nobody has benefited. You could use it, this particular issue, to sit with the customer, take him through the period close process, and to show him that this is how different as part of the ERP is working together. You see that your period open is in the general ledger module, but without doing that, you are not able to do the transaction in the payables module. This is what ERP is all about, and this is what the user you can elevate the user, just by putting it into context. You will spend only 30 minutes with the user, but the value that you add to the implementation is huge. So, uh, find out all opportunity to train the user in different ways. Most of the time, sit with the user. Don't as much as possible time you do face-to-face contact, because some of the issues you can't resolve without face-to-face contact. There are some examples that I have given in my blog. I don't have time to go to elaborate on that now, but as much as possible, in many of the implementation, what I see is the implementation team comes in the morning, sits in one room, gets out of the room, and go home. Don't do that, because your ERP success is based on the user adoption. User adoption doesn't mean that user just knows ERP. User adoption also knows that user has a confidence on the implementation consultant. So that confidence will come only if you go and sit with the user. Sitting with the user has its risk, definitely. He may be able to identify some of your weaknesses, but so what? You are here to learn. Nobody expects everybody to a super consultant anyway. So as much as time with the user, spend time setting context for every issue. Every issue that comes to your way is an opportunity for you to train the user and add value to the organization. Use that very effectively. uh, uh, and process flow training. If you're talking of purchasing, do not stop with purchasing. Take it to the end to end point of AP invoice payment and posting. That way, your purchase order user will know that if he makes a mistake, that mistake cascades down the entire organization chain. Not just earlier, your purchasing was a silo. His issues got restricted to that silo. But in the ERP, if you show the process flow training, every user will know how they are interrelated with each other in an ERP ecosystem, and that is very important. Every user will feel that we are not alone. We are in it together, and that actually has a tremendous power to speed up the user adoption. So spend time with the user, be patient with the user, use every issue as a opportunity to add value to the opportunity to train the user, um, and ensure flow training. These are few of the suggestions for successful ERP implementation. In the stabilization phase, this is mostly to be done by the customer. But in this, I want to tell you one aspect where the consultant comes. The consulting skills, the soft skills that are required in stabilization is totally different from the soft skills that are required during implementation. So many a time the implementation consultant himself is doing the doing uh, uh, stabilization support. There, what happens is that he will carry over all his bad habits like sending email, issue fix, please test, and those kind of things. He will carry on. The During the hypercare, the expectation is of patience. Expectation is of ability to paraphrase the requirement from the end user. End user is not key user. He will be giving some vague description of an issue. If you go and solving that issue, then you will find that you have solved the wrong issue. So ability to paraphrase, and in this hypercare, one more challenge is that the users are spread all across the country or all across the world. So you have to support them through your system, ERP. I mean through your internet and that help desk. So there, talking to the calling up, picking up the phone, calling up, understanding, seeing the issue, asking them for screenshots, explaining the issue, all these things are of paramount importance. So as a consultant, you have to understand that if you are implementing, you need a different set of soft skills where you don't have to talk much. Once the requirement is over, once your solution design and demonstration is over, you don't have to talk much to the customer. But a support consultant has to talk to the customer 24 hours. So the skills required are very different. Uh, okay, so this is the next logical endpoint. Any questions that you have, which I can take?
Okay, so we have few questions, I think in between. So Ram was asking, so should we do more negative testing in the testing phase? I think you were covering that topic.
Yes, I will say uh, I will say not. But the more negative testing means, the more you are getting into the mind of the end user. That's always good. Uh, for example, I will just give an example of one where I failed in negative testing. The system was taking a customization in one of our implementations. System was taking some time, and we found that a major issue was happening, which was changing inventory valuation significantly. Later on, we found that while the user was sitting idle after entering a data and pressing submit, he was sitting idle. He was just clicking the mouse button, right button, and every time the mouse button was getting clicked, the database was getting updated. So you can't solve these unless you get into the mind of the customer. So that is where there is no limit to negative testing. You will find that even if you do all negative testing that you think is possible, when you go for implementation, new negative scenarios are bound to come. So you might
Right.
as well anticipate some of them and then provide solution uh, so that um, so that at least those issues do not come. And sometimes this negative testing will come out with major flaw in the application where you may need to raise bugs, SRs and all that stuff and
Right.
track. So
Right.
that is why negative testing is important.
Right.
So to answer to the question, there is no limit to the negative testing. As much as
Great.
possible, use it.
Right. Right. Okay. Shall we move ahead to next section, or I should take
One more
more
question is
questions?
there. I'll take one more question.
Okay.
More information regarding errors, exceptions, and controls. I will say that many times finance managers focus on controls, and many of the ERP applications do not satisfy the control requirements of the finance manager. But some of them you should put your mind to understand and document. For example, the manager will say that, okay, I want only this list of values to be shown. So you may not be able to know that, you may not be able to solve, but at least you can understand the mind of the finance manager, which is very important. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right. Right. So
let me,
Sanjay is, it's not question. I think it's more like a comment. Uh, does the time allow consultant to test other negative testing along with business process? Because The I think there's yeah. So
This
live
is the,
project meeting deadline and major factors.
see, I'm
Timeline,
following.
deadline. Yeah.
Yeah. See, the point is that just a quick, I won't take too much time, just quick, I will just give a quick example of what happened at Toyota Model Systems. They found that they producing different models, and they found that to change from one model to another, they had to change a die. So they found that they were taking almost 8 to 9 hours to change a die. Then they analyzed, did a time study and found that most of the time, 99% of the time was taking in preparation activity. Only once this one model is stopped, then only they will go looking for the tools, they will go collecting the lubricant, they will go collecting the cleaning agent, bring the lathe, everything. They will do all those things only after, and that was taking most of the time. So once they identified those and then they planned for that, they found that the changing time reduced from 10 hours to 30 minutes. So what happens in ERP implementation? So for example, I'll just give an example of
Mhm.
let's say um, requirement gathering as an example. You do the requirement gathering, then you go around looking for documentation template. Then the customer will say, okay, this template is not acceptable. Then you will have to modify a new template. Then do your customer will ask, do we have template from another implementation that you have done? All those are preparation activities. There's nothing that is preventing you from collecting all those tools and templates at the beginning. You, as you're a consultant, you should have your toolkit with you. Like a plumber comes and
Right.
asking, if you plumber comes to you and asks him, do you have a wrench, do you have a screw, do you have a bolt, then you will say what kind of plumber he is. But this is what an ERP consultant does. He goes to the implementation
Right.
and then start looking for the tools. So that is where a lot of time gets. For example, solution design document, there are a number of projects which you have done. Why can't you take a template of a solution document and then update it to meet the customer's requirement? That will reduce your
Right.
timeline significantly in these areas, right? So, so
Right.
I don't have this. I don't have. I
Right.
don't like this deadline. It is these are not mutually exclusive. Customer has to be happy, and for that you have to deliver all these things. You can't say that I will cringe on my testing
Right.
because of a deadline. That is what happens, but
Right.
yeah.
Yes, yes. True, true. So one of my friend Ashish is asking, and that is very interesting question for, I think it's question for everybody also to just think and share opinion. And guys, if you are on Facebook chat, please type your opinion also on this question because I find this very interesting. And if you have question from your side, that also you can type it. So question is like this: how to convince in interview, because this is more like a job related question. How to convince in interview that a support consultant is good for implementation role as well. Even after answering all questions correctly, couldn't convince the interviewer. So I think he's sharing his own personal experience also. So what is your thought on this? Like support consultant when they go for a new job for a consulting firm, there's a mismatch, right? Because you work in support, you can't do implementation. How far this is true? How to convince interviewer? No, this is not the right perception. Support consultant also equally good in implementation.
No, I sympathize and empathize with this Ashish for this question, which
Right.
is true also because a support consultant has to basically take over from the implementation, and he will have to bear the brunt
Right.
of all the mistakes in the implementation. So essentially,
Right.
he knows the requirement, but he doesn't know how. Most of the time, support consultant will not have setup access, configuration access, and all that stuff. So due to that, what happens is support consultant do not get some of the skill sets required for an implementation consultant. But if you are a support
Right.
consultant, you have to understand that gap and try to fill. Shiv himself has put up a session on how to learn, Fusion in 21 days or something. So that is a lot of resources where a consultant can go and learn. So if you are
Mhm.
just done support, and if you are expecting that just because of the demand in the market, I will get a job, you may get a job, but you will struggle
Right.
because implementation is necessarily different from a support activity.
Right, right.
And also one more
And
thing is that,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
So I share my perspective here on this. See, when I see support versus implementation, I see both are two separate thing. uh, Total separate personality trait is required. Support is more like you will sitting in a place, you would be working on a system and troubleshooting issue and fixing issue in a given timeline, in a given scope of the work. Implementation means more like hunting. You would not be knowing anything. You need to very upfront with the customer. You would be dealing with all new situation. You would be handling the deadlines and expectation for the future expectation from the business side. So
Right,
the personality and the way you communicate, you work, the tool you use, the day-to-day activities you do in implementation is very different than what you do in support. And that
yeah,
is where most of the interviewer doesn't get convinced from the support consultant that they could be good implementer. Just one example: implementation guys required to run a full day trainings, full day sessions, 3 hours, 4 hours, continuous sessions. Where support guys need to attend, weekly status meeting and following that deadline in terms of SLA, support the ticket. So the nature of work is very different, and that is where I feel that even if you're working in support project, you need to develop your personality in such a way, your work culture in such a way that you become a solution provider, not the ticket fixer, not the closing the ticket, but think how you can provide the solution, because that is the one trait which is common in support and implementation, and that is
exactly.
where everybody see that if you working in implementation, you need to understand the solution, you need to understand the business psyche of the people, like how they are asking and how we are providing the information. So this is
Mhm.
just my point of view.
Yeah,
Definitely
true.
I
And,
accept.
but then I think it is more difficult to move from support to implementation. His question is very valid. Than it is from
Yes,
implementation. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Good questions. I think Manju also asked the same question. So Manju, I hope Sir Ram sir and myself able to answer your question. And I
See,
think there is some feedback from Ritvik also. Let's take that.
no, Manju's question, support consultant can definitely, because many of the consultants are support who are
Right.
about to support, right? It's not a ladder that you cannot climb. Only thing what we are talking
Right.
about, both of you are saying is the knowledge level, knowledge required, the challenges which are going to be faced, and the style of communication required are different. So you need to
Right.
get ready for that difference.
Exactly. Even I started my career as a support consultant. My first project and career was totally uh, daily support and weekly support and running monitoring jobs, cleaning the interfaces, tables, and all. So I understand this thing uh, very, very, very hands on.
Ritvik has made a couple of good points. Ritvik Kumar Mishra, a
Yeah.
support consultant, knows the challenges which customer is facing, so that he
Right.
can, when he's implementing, which is true. I mean, support consultant has a better. See, you need to have both the views. You need to have implementation and post
Right.
implementation views. So
Right. Right.
you can't be complete without both the views. But the
Right.
point is that it is more challenging to move from support to implementation than from support. That's how it is. But
Great.
that's where you have to buck up. No, when the going gets tough,
Right.
that get going right. Okay,
Great.
let me move on to the next.
So
Next, yeah.
yes. So guys, we are really having very interesting session here. So I need everybody's participation. We see around 40 people on live. So feel free to type in your question. We like to know your opinion, your questions, your feedback, because this is all about knowledge sharing. Ram is definitely sharing his knowledge of 20 years of expertise in project management. That is really helpful. And similarly, if you have any question in your mind, query about this, definitely we can take it. It is a great forum right now. I'm getting a lot of energy and enthusiasm from everybody. So let's continue with that. So
Yeah.
Selesh is asking one question. I think we'll take it now itself before we move to next
Okay.
section. What is the best project methodology used for Oracle EBS project? So best methodology as per
See,
your
there is,
experience and so forth.
yeah, there is. I- the methodology, what I will say is, from you have to be nimble, because Oracle continuously keep changing the methodology. So you had, I was very happy when, when I was implementing 11A and I was doing AIM. I had all those MT50, all that thing in my mind very clear. I have forgotten all of them. But then suddenly they brought in OUM. OUM, the
Right.
project management phases was different, the documentation was different, the project approach was different. So
Right.
the it doesn't matter what is the best project methodology, because you don't have a choice in that methodology, because that methodology is by the product vendor. So whatever is the
Right.
methodology which he is giving, you have to adopt. So that means that you have to be nimble in adopting the
Right.
methodology. You have to understand. Earlier I used to call it MD50. Now in this methodology, what is that terminology? Those
MC50.
things.
No, now we call DS 140. Now we call it DS 140.
I know, I know. Yeah. So that's what MD30. So we are so now we have all configuration workbooks and all that stuff, all structured and streamlined. So it's good actually. So
Right.
you be nimble. That's all. There's specific project methodology. Every
Right.
vendor has its own, and we
And
have to follow that.
every vendor can have different, every client can have different, all the big
Yeah,
clients, they have their own project methodology.
yeah,
They will
true.
have Six Sigma based, Agile based,
Yes.
ITIL based, PMI based. Then
Mm,
implementation partner can have them, right? Deloitte has a
exactly.
different one, KPMG have, Accenture have, they have their own in-house method, which are again a tailored version of AM, or maybe their best practices. So
Mm,
great.
yeah.
Okay, so Mohan is asking question. Let's see that one. Okay, Mohan is asking, if an interviewer asks what would be situation where you have failed, and if I have never encountered this situation, how should I respond? So Mohan, probably you are very young person, that's why you never failed. But in my career or in everybody's career, people fail very often. Very often means every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. Professionally, personally, socially, we all face a lot of challenges, lot of mistakes that we make. Some mistakes are minor, but some are blunders also. Professionally also. So it never be possible that if you have 3 years career or 5 year career or 10-year career, you never failed in your career. You made a lot of mistakes, wrong judgment. It could be many
Exactly.
situations, right? A lot of challenges we face on every month, right? And personally, we made a lot of mistakes. Whether it could be, just an example, like like I used to make this kind of mistakes very initially. Like I used to ignore error reports from jobs, and I used to send status reports saying everything is green. And after 1 hour, we used to get a lot of tickets. So those were failure from my side. I was not very good in monitoring jobs. I was in support project. Last month I made mistakes. 2 months back I made mistakes. And only thing is, you should acknowledge mistakes and you should know how you can learn something from that mistakes to avoid such similar mistakes in future. So you have to just think through. This is my opinion. You just think through that what are the challenges, how you categorize your situation in mistakes, challenges, achievements, and all, and then you can respond that. But yes, it's a good question from interview side, and that is a good opportunity where you can showcase that yes, you acknowledge situation, you respond to those situation, and you learn from those situation.
Exactly. Actually, if you
It's
this is one question where you can change the interviewer's approach towards you for totally. If you say
right.
that, okay, there are no mistakes I've done, the the message that you are sending is that you have never tried anything. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
said, everybody has made mistakes. So what you have to do is you have to reflect on the mistakes and take lessons and present it as a story to the interviewer. If you have never encountered a
yes,
situation, that I can't accept. Everybody has,
right.
you can't. Anyway, let me move on to the
Yeah.
next.
Sure, let's take the next session. And meantime, we'll take questions again, so you can keep typing in. And meantime, Ram is taking the next section.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead, Ram.
this is the final session, final part of the session. What can I do? We talked about successful ERP projects and all that stuff. We have discussed so many which are the success factors in various phases of the project. Now, as a individual, what can I do? So that is what is in it for me. That is the question that every one of you have this thing. So I have put what you can do in three parts. One is from the customer. If you are a customer, quick decision making is very important. Consultants will come and give options. So it is very important to take the. There is one project where I tell an issue and within 1 hour I get a decision. There's other project where I give my options, and then they'll call for three meeting. They will discuss internally. They will take it to the CFO, and the decision takes a long time. So customer can take quick decision making. I'm not saying that every area you have to be quick decision making, but in most of the cases, if you have done your planning, you'll be able to answer many of the questions quite quick. For example, costing method. Suppose you are going for standard costing, or suppose you are going for period average costing, or transaction weighted average costing. Now the ERP application talks of standard costing. So this during your RFP, during your proposal stage itself, that the ERP has a standard costing feature. You can't wait for the implementation to begin and then go and tell, okay, I want to understand standard costing. Should I go for that? And then take 1 month trying to just decide on whether I should move from weighted averaging to standard costing, spending consultants' time. Okay, you'll ask me what are the advantages, what are the drawback. In your opinion, why should we go for this? These are all like structured costing methodologies. In these areas, you should be you should be able to decide quickly and move forward. Another area is good balance between rigidity and flexibility. For example, in my latest project, import customs duty, the requirements he was very rigid. Like, for example, I want this, I want that, I want that. So at a higher level, he was very clear, the CFO, on what he wanted. But when I gave the option saying, okay, instead of in this area, why not you use standard costing? In that area, why not you use actual costing? He was saying, okay, not a problem, we can go for that. So at a high level, he had a very clarity on what he wanted. But at the same time, at the detail level, he was open to different options of achieving that requirement. Another very, very important, okay, this is from a perspective of project manager, regular steering committee meetings. I have been a project manager for a long time. I know I don't like steering committee meetings. That is where you have to see it, you have to prepare, you have to raise your change request. It's like a very stressful activity for a project manager. But in the latest project project, we had 15 days, every 15 days steering committee meeting, and I found it was amazing. So steering committee meeting, the regular and then status reporting, very, very important. So here I put it as a customer because like I point in the next line, customer and the project manager, your implementation project manager, should not have differences of opinion in front of the senior management about a particular point. So prepare when you go for steering committee, sit with the customer project manager, run him through your presentation, incorporate his views. It doesn't mean that you don't have differences of opinion, but it has to come in a structured way. Naming convention, this is very, very important in my opinion. It actually, this is a very, very important area which can make or break a project. So naming conventions, there is a whole lot of things. There are a lot of areas where you need to look at naming convention, customer, supplier. For example, John Smith and Smith, John. They may be the same customers, but you will have two customers created, one as John Smith and one as Smith, John. Or you may have Mr. John Smith as another customer. And then somebody will enter transaction for Mr. John Smith, somebody will for Smith, John. Like, it's a disaster. So it's very important to consider naming conventions at the beginning of the project, and that customer has to initiate. Focus on data from day one. Like I told you, the importance of data conversion. Now, project manager. As a project manager, what are the things that I need to be considerate for successful project? If, you know, I'm a firm believer in not managing, but in some areas, project manager should be ready to micromanage and let go. For example, if a consultant is a good consultant, don't micromanage. But if you are identifying the weak consultant, then have a close oversight, because it takes only one weak consultant to screw up the entire project. Collect templates and documents at the beginning itself. Use the internal KM application quite well. Get all that, solution document, similar customer solution document, because your company, your vendor would have gone and told that I have done implementation for a food processing industry. That's why I want you. I'm good at implementing. So customer is reasonable to expect that you would have all the documentation from the previous food processing implementation industry before you come to this project. So, but it doesn't happen that way. You start roaming around looking for documentation, template, solution design, everything after you come to the project. These are all things you should have at the beginning. So that way all the lead time can be reduced and your time can be spent on useful activities. For example, FBDA template. In my project, I spent latest project, almost 1 month just getting the FBDA templates to stabilize. So these templates and all, because we identified took some wrong template, older versions template, and tried to fit it in a newer version. Those templates and all, you should be ready at the beginning of the project. With folder structure, okay, this is what I like. Uh, I approach the project with a folder structure. I have a folder called tools and template where I will load all the templates available, and then give link to the. But creating a good folder structure is a very good project management practice. Uh, mm, Encourage the team to reuse the available knowledge set, track risks closely. In fact, my approach to risk management is I think that risk identification is very, very important. So I ask every stakeholder to send me mail on risks that they anticipate. It doesn't matter whether it's customer, whether it's my team, everybody. I send them. If the moment you think, mostly risks start with a minor concern in the mind. So the moment you identify that concern, then it's very easy to handle that risk. So that's what I try to get my team, everybody to tell me that is there a concern in your mind? Is there so that will definitely, if not addressed, will become big risk. Customer is always right. This is the reason I'm saying is most of the time, your team as a project manager, your team will give some solution, and as usual, consultant solution is limited by his or her level of knowledge. So don't accept the solution just because your team member has given. Customer, if he comes back with a valid point, then insist and demand from the consultant to augment the quality of the solution. That way consultant also will gain and grow after this project. Unless you put demand on the consultant, many a project managers just side with the consultant and then start shouting and fighting and forcing the customer to accept. It doesn't work that way. Customers' questions are most of the time genuine, and most of the time customers' questions show weakness in the approach followed by the consultant. So always, most of the time in implementation side with the customer, when it comes to solutioning, I'm not saying to create fight against your team. Okay, don't take it that way. I'm saying that ensure a higher quality solution. That is what I'm trying to say. If a customer is coming up with a valid point, don't keep on fighting. Improve your solution. The next point is very, 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 very important. The earlier the customer takes ownership of project tasks, the more successful the implementation. Most of the time, what happens is that you get the customer to be a part of the solution, maybe just before the UAT stage or maybe just after the user training stage. But that won't work because there are a lot of areas where the customer can add value. In one of my projects, I got the customer involved so early that at the time of UAT, he sent a mail saying that I'm not bragging here. He sent a mail to the entire everybody saying that I will be able to handle this project from now on. I just want Ram to sit as a guidance. So that is the power of getting customer, involved very early in your project cycle. I have not been successful in doing this in many projects, but where I have been able to do it, the project have been tremendous success. So you should also try. That's where earlier I spoke to you about giving multiple option and giving customer involved in the solutioning. Another very good area where customer can be involved is in raising SR and following up. You raise an SR and then you ask the customer just to follow up, track this SR. In the SR itself, give the customer's name and detail as a reference. Many a time SR guys will say, okay, do this testing and give me the output. So guiding the customer to do that, you may diagnostic set, for example. You may have to spend some time guiding the customer to get the diagnostics test first. But going forward, every SR, the customer is going to take ownership. So there's a lot of power to getting customer involved much early in the project. Uh, uh, Business continuity planning, this is not in the cloud environment. I think it is redundant in cloud environment, but in EBS scenario, this is very, very important. What happens if your server shuts down and it's not available for 3 days? Like, let's say when I was in Bombay as the CIO, heavy rains came and the cable got severed, and 3 days the data center was not able to give us the instance. So what to do? Compliance. How are you going to smoothly transition from going from ERP back to your paper-based documentation? And how are you going to ensure? So a lot of implication sequences, document sequences, this, that, all those things. How are you going to handle? Plan for that during as a project manager. Like I told about the reports, keep that at the top of your mind. If you are in an on-premise implementation, not much applicable in cloud environment. So these are some of the things that came to my mind. As a consultant,
Great.
an ERP implementation is only as good as the weakest consultant in the chain. So don't be that weak consultant. That's my first point. Then don't, many of the consultants do not understand the business. They just go at how are you raising, how do you raise AP invoice, how do you raise AR invoice, how do you do material receipt. They start with the processes without understanding the business. So understand the business, go through the web page, understand what it is doing, understand what are the raw materials that it purchases, understand what are the processes it does, understand what are the who are the major customers. Is it an export company? Is it a local company? What are the product that it's in? Go to the market and see their product, buy their product for food processing industry. Go and buy their yogurt and drink. Find out how they are, doing it. What are the various markets where they do some. Anyway, you're going to the supermarket. Just go and check out the company's, finished products and how they are coming. You will get a lot of insight in your project. You will become smarter. When you use the when you are discussing with the customer, then you will start talking about their products rather than test item 1, 2, 3 or test customer, test supplier. You will be talking about customer ABC consultant or the product yogurt 200 ml Tetra Pak. So that actually that immediately when you use those terminologies, immediately the respect for customer on your consulting skill goes up. Learn about the 7 flows in ERP implementation. I don't have time to go through this. The one which I spoke about now was business flow. Then there are process flows. Then you need to know in the manufacturing sector how the material flows, how the material comes into the system, how it flows through the system, how it comes as a finished product, how is getting dispatched. You need to know what are the material flow. Accounting flow is very important. I will focus on this accounting flow. Documents flow, where gate pass entry in Standard India implementation, you have gate pass entry, you have GRN, you have inspection report, material issue note, MIN. There's a whole lot of documentation. Understand how the documents flow in the system. Many a time what happens is documents, because these are all internal documentation, you don't follow much, but it is very important to focus on this documentation, because that is what your customer is the guy who is using the ERP. So, and he will be happy if he sees the correct document with the correct data. So you need to know how the documents flow in the system. That is very important. In my ERP book, I have spent one entire chapter on this. So if you go through that, you'll be able to see most of these points are covered in my ERP book. Okay. So if you go through that ERP book, you will be able to get a clear view of how to approach many of the aspects. Then there is reports flow. How the reports flow in the system. I can spend one whole session on report system, but right now I don't have time. Then data flow. Data flow is basically at the back end how the data flows in various tables. So this also at a high level, it's good to know. Then there is 4 layers of requirement. In my article on this peeling of onion approach to requirement gathering, there are 4 layers. Of requirement. The first layer is the topmost layer, which is easy to meet. Like for example, there are mechanical activities, mechanical tasks where your intellect is not required. For example, they'll say that okay, from my payment, from my payroll application, the payroll data should come into GL as a GL journal. There is no rocket science in this. It's just it is just a interface that you need to generate. So in this mechanical requirements, you need to deliver this mechanical requirement quickly. If the mechanical requirements get piled up, it leads to huge customer dissatisfaction. But mechanical requirement you meet, it doesn't provide any customer satisfaction. You are supposed to deliver. It's not a big deal. But from your efficiency, effectiveness perspective, earlier some question was there, project timeline. Project timeline, one of the aspects is that these mechanical requirement like basic interfaces, basic some things, you don't close it quickly. That pile up and then that becomes a huge deal. The next layer of requirement, the topmost layer is the mechanical requirement that I told about. The next layer of requirement is what you see in the requirement gathering documentation. These are mostly operational requirement like entering AP invoice, AR invoice, India localization, compliance reports. All those things are these reports. These requirement you are supposed to meet. That is why the customer has implemented ERP. If you meet this requirement, it is not going to create a lot of customer satisfaction or delight. But if you don't meet, then it will again cause a huge customer dissatisfaction. In this, how do you create customer satisfaction is like I earlier discussed. For priority requirement, give multiple options and involve the customer in the solution. That way, you can add value in the second layer of requirement. The paradox of this report, this requirement layers is that if you don't meet the topmost layer, you won't get access to the innermost layer. If you don't meet the mechanical requirement, you are not going to get access to the the basic requirement. Customer is not going to spend time and all that stuff. I have been in one project where I faced this problem. That was one of my big failures. So I know what I'm talking about. We spent a lot of time just designing a product interface from one product application to another application, which was a 2-day work. We spent almost 5 steering committee meetings just discussing this. So until and unless your mechanical requirements are met, you won't get access to the next level of requirement. Until and unless you meet the and also the level of the person who gives the requirements in the organization goes up. Mechanical requirements are given by the users mostly. The operational requirements are mostly given by the managers. If you meet these requirements, then you go to the third level of requirement, which are the requirements that will add significant customer delight. These are not a formally given requirement. You'll be like going for a if you're a smoker, for example, you'll be going for a smoke with a manager and a CFO is present, and CFO will suddenly come up with one statement that I'm having so much of customer disputes, I don't know how to handle. Maybe I don't think ERP can handle this. This access to the CFO you will get only if you establish your knowledge by providing solution for the previous level requirement. Now this is where you can add significant value. You will so this one particular requirement, you go and analyze data, you analyze, and then you come back with a solution. And most of the time these solutions are going to be complex, and so you document the solution, you test the solution, provide the thing, provide the output. So this meeting the third layer of requirement gives customer delight. But even then, there is a fourth layer which is provided by the CEO. CEO doesn't bother about these operational thing or CFO's challenges whatever we discuss, some customer disputes and all. He doesn't care, or whether P&L is coming out properly. These are all from CEO's perspective. These are bound to be there. And if you don't establish yourself in the level 3 requirement with the CFO, you won't even get access to the CEO. And the CEO's requirements are mostly about, how do I ensure data security? How do I ensure ERP return on investment? How do I ensure that the users don't make? How do I not users don't make mistakes? How do I ensure that I can use ERP to, delight my top the 20 customers? These are the CEO's requirements. So CEO's requirement will come to you only if you meet CFO's requirement. CFO's requirement will come to you only if you quickly and effectively meet the manager's requirement. And manager's requirement and time will come to you only if you meet the basic requirements given by the data entry operator or the accountant or whatever. So it's very important that to understand the concept of these requirement layers, and quickly each layer you have to close as quickly as possible so that you will have enough time available for higher layers. Because as you go up in the layer, the time taken to resolve issues become more. So the earlier you close the mechanical activities, you go into the next layer of operational requirement. Once you close the operational requirement, then only you will have access to CFO. If you don't have access to CFO, you won't even know what CFO's challenges are. And then what will happen invariably is that manager will say, yeah, I am getting these tactical reports. CFO will say, what, yeah, I am not even getting a profitability report. I have these I can't make a basic decision. I can't even know which project I should invest in. I'm not getting an NPV or IRR of the various projects. So all those are CFO's concerns, which you will come to know only if you meet managers' concerns. So it's like a increasing step up ladder. Configure for transaction, not for analysis. This is a mistake that I see many consultants make. For example, I've seen two implementations, okay, where this mistake was made. Is that customer said product, what is it, depot wise, I want depot wise trial balance. Instead of asking various questions like, what do you mean by trial balance? Do you understand trial balance? Do you have, owner's equity at each depot? Do you have account payables tracked at each depot? Is the payments being made from the depot? Many questions. Instead of asking, the moment the consultant heard the trial balance, he gave balancing segment. I'm talking of EBS. So balancing segment. So that means in one of my implementation, I had more than 105 balancing segments with many intercompany transactions between them. It was a huge mess. Why it happened? Because the basic question was not asked. Why trial balance? Are you asking for profitability report? Because everybody at the data entry level, you will see that they confuse these two documents. For trial balance and profitability report. The basic requirement depot-wise profitability. So you configure for your configuration is for depot-wise profitability report by giving trial balance for each depot, and trial balance will not match, and it causes a lot of reconciliation issues, and every month the entire organization time is spent only on these kind of nonsense activities. So configure for transactions, not for analysis. We discussed configuration and data conversion earlier. Accounting is very, very important. Most of the consultants do not know the accounting impact of their transactions. Especially supply chain consultants do not know the accounting impact of their transactions, and most of the cost and the profitability comes from supply chain transactions. So this is a dichotomy that every consultant should overcome. They should be able to understand accounting at a good level. They should be able to understand accounting in the application, how it works. They should understand, and they should be able to give a lot of value to in the operational requirements, which I told in the second layer. Accounting is a critical ingredient. If you don't get the accounting right, even data conversion. If you don't get the accounting right, data conversion will go for a toss. The subledger will not match the GL, and all kind of mess will happen. So spend a lot of time on learning accounting. Don't think that I am a purchasing consultant, why should I learn accounting? Purchasing encumbrance accounting is a part of purchasing. The moment encumbrance comes, there's a whole lot of accounting will happen. Material receipt accounting will happen. Costing accounting will happen. So accounting is very important. Every consultant should spend time on accounting. Plan early for data conversion. I told you data conversion is very, very important. So plan for that. You should focus on your key user. Make sure that your key user is successful. So I ask him. The best way to know is to ask him, how can I make you successful? So he'll say, okay, these are my challenges. I have to. Then most important skill, the single most important skill is documentation skill, in my opinion, for a consultant. Document everything. Prepare minutes of the meeting, prepare solution design document, prepare issue log solutioning. Every communication should be a documented communication. Close your mouth as much as possible, listen a lot, document and paraphrase, and come to an agreement. Then the final skill which I'm seeing missing in many consultants is closure skills. If you remember your school days, it's very easy to get about 75 to 80% marks. But going from 80% to 95% to 100% takes a hell of a lot of effort. It is the same here. Most of the time, the closure skill is lacking. You will provide 85% solution. Most of my consultants come back and tell me, Ram, I have sent the email. What do you want me to do? Sending email is your job. What am I supposed to do there? I want a mail from the customer saying that yes, my issue is resolved and now you can close this issue. Only customer can close the issue, and and that skill, getting the customer to close the issue, is something which many consultants can improve. So these are some of the skills that can lead to a successful ERP implementation from a consultant perspective. So now I come to the end of my session. I have one more slide, which is basically, I told you I will be giving you a bonus. I'll explain you that bonus now. This is a time where I want to stop and take a few questions.
Okay, thanks, Ram. I think it is very wonderful session, and we almost like more than 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? We are still on session, so really great. Almost everybody is still on session, so really very happy to see so much active participation and wonderful session from you.
I have one
So
more.
let's take some questions. So guys, if you have any questions, so let's give a couple of minutes, couple of seconds actually to get some question.
He is saying one question is from Mohan. One question is from Mohan, which says that working in Oracle for more than 13 years and not get a chance to involve in GL activities directly, how should we take this? No, don't mistake knowledge of accounting for knowledge of GL. I'm saying accounting, I think that is the context in which he's asking this question. You don't have to get into GL to know do accounting. You know, when you are creating a material receipt, there is an accounting and inventory is getting debited and some accrual is getting credited. So you need to know. You need to have a vision of how the accounting is happening. You need to know what is this accrual account, what is the difference between P&L and balance sheet, what is top line, what is bottom line, how does inventory valuation impact your P&L. These are the conceptual understanding of accounting that you need to know. It's not like you have to do GL to know accounting. Mohan, I hope you are able to,
Yes, yes.
that answer is clear.
Yeah, Yuvraj is asking question, since you have worked in EBS and Fusion both, do you see Fusion having as many as project as EBS in supply chain management?
Yes, I do. Actually, I love the supply chain part of Fusion. I implemented Fusion procurement and inventory recently, and I think order management also. I had seen it. It's like quite like feature rich. I think that Fusion supply chain is going to be the future, especially with AI and machine learning and all coming in. Fusion supply chain is going to be the in thing. So spend time and effort in learning Fusion supply chain.
Right, right.
In a
Okay,
situation if
next
customer
question
is
from Mohan itself.
yeah, customer is appending
Yeah,
new
can
requirement.
you see? Yes, go ahead.
So this is a good question. The thing is that if a customer is asking new requirement, that actually means that somewhere along the way you have failed as a consultant. In the project. That is what I will say because uh, mm, uh, these are requirements that should have come. If you had followed the process, this situation would not have come because you see there is no incentive for the customer to give a new requirement after UAT. He is also having a tremendous schedule challenge. So if he is giving some new requirement, that means it's like really significant and important, and and you have missed that. You know, so so how to handle it is project manager has to decide. Uh,
Right, right. Someone is asking
Product
your
manager is
thoughts on
not.
product manager.
I don't have any thoughts. I don't know what is this product manager itself. I mean,
So product manager means this is a terms actually comes if we follow the agile methodology,
okay.
and everything considered as a product. So Oracle team will become a product, implementation will become a product. So they will think that we are building a product, implementation will become a product. So it is more like agile and scrum way of terminology. In Oracle career, what stage you can make a decision to move ourselves toward product manager. So if you calling yourself product manager, then you're already working in a support or internal IT department where agile and scrum methodology already in place. And product manager is more like a department owner or IT lead or tech lead. That comes actually kind of map with the product manager, where you would be leading a team or managing that development effort. So I don't think it is kind of relate directly with Oracle ERP per se, because it's totally different methodology, right? Agile, Scrum, that more oriented toward the product development or service development, where Oracle is already built in product. You're just rolling out for business use. So it's kind of relate when you work with agile methodology, but it's not very conclusive in Oracle per se. Great. So before we moving to next session, I just want to inform guys, we have almost 30 people live, still live with us after 90 minutes. So guys, if you have not, if you are missing some, you want to rerun this session, you can get the session on our YouTube channel. So we will be uploading our recording on our YouTube channel. So if you have not joined and subscribe our YouTube channel, you can go to this link, youtube.com/c/no oracle. This is the channel where we keep uploading our recording and our content there. So you will see a lot more material there. Also, if you're not aware, we are running our free masterclass series on our cloud ERP. So we keep doing those sessions every Tuesday and Friday. So you can go and attend those session also. So that happening on every Tuesday and Friday on 7:30 p.m. I'm just sharing the information on my link also. So you will get detail on my blog. The blog URL is no-oracle.com. You will see the article there which explaining the everything there. And other thing is, like, if you are interested to join our WhatsApp group, I'm sharing the WhatsApp group link also in comment, so you can join. You can click on that link and join our WhatsApp group, so you can have one-to-one interaction, or you can have this community also to share your knowledge and your questions in there. Great. So let's take couple of questions also, Ram.
Yeah.
So we have, okay, Hemnath is asking, is
Yeah.
there any implementation methodology suggested by Oracle?
Yes. We discussed this earlier, right? Earlier it was AIM, then it became OUM. Now it has become TCS, TCM, Total Cloud Methodology. So Oracle has its own methodology now. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Which can
So
you
now
please?
Oracle recommends TCM methodology, which is a version of OUM. So even if you are comfortable with OUM, you will find TCM methodology is just another version of OUM. And OUM is free. Actually, you can download and install on your laptop, and you can go through that. TCM is more like a private methodology, so only some implementation partner or employees have access to that. So that
So
is a question. Yeah, go ahead.
there is a
Yes.
question. There's a question from Rinku. There's a question from somebody who has. Can you please look into this question? What is the question? I don't know.
Yeah, please type your question again. Yes, please take
Yeah.
Rinku's question.
Rinku's question is: can you provide some thoughts on integration in Oracle Cloud? Your learning challenges, like see, what we did all the integration, we did it through FBDA. So there is FBDA is the easiest integration technology which Oracle is providing you. So I don't know about the other Dell Bloom or OAC. I have used in EBS, but you don't OAC. See, OAC we looked at for integration. OAC is also Oracle Integration Cloud. It's a good solution, but then we decided to go in for FBDA because it was more intuitive. So it's not a recommendation or not recommendation for any of the products that you're mentioning. It's just that I've not done used any of these tools. Um, okay.
Okay, so I can share my opinion here because I gone through some of the product here already. So if you really think yourself as a technical person and you want to build your career further in technology, you should learn MuleSoft. MuleSoft is the number one middleware right now in ERP space. So you should be learning ERP, and that is free also. Free means the whole learning is free. You can go to MuleSoft.com, and it's Salesforce product. It's free, and almost you will see every second or third customer using MuleSoft compared to OIC or Dell Boomi. So definitely we all should learn MuleSoft. Even if you're not learning, at least you should aware how it works. So that will help. OIC is definitely a tool that Oracle sells to Oracle customer, but you will see if you're working in a new customer, you will see that more and more customers are using MuleSoft. Okay, next question is from Jaya. Let's take
Okay.
that question.
So this question is: why does large enterprises not able to adapt to Oracle ERP? I don't know enough. I don't have enough knowledge to answer such questions. Large customers have their own challenges, unique processes, and all that stuff. See, ERP is even now evolving. Even Oracle or SAP or anything, it is still evolving, and there are a lot of industries with their own specific processes and which is their competitive advantage, and ERPs are not able to meet, or if even the workarounds suggested are very complicated, that they don't like those workarounds. That is actually causing a lot of challenges to Fusion, I think. At least in EBS you
Right.
could customize a little bit. uh,
Right.
but it is not correct
So,
that large customers are not going. There are many huge customers under both Oracle and SAP.
right. Now, the reason is actually twofold here. Let me try to answer this. One is that Oracle Cloud ERP is a product that can be implemented in small and medium-sized organization also. So when you see the new clients are coming, they are coming from the mid-size segment. So it's an impression it gives like it's a for the mid-size market, and that's why you see, oh, all small companies are implementing, mid-sized company implementing, not big company implementing, which is not true. But the product is now available for many customers. So you see many implementation. And for the big organization, yes, they are also implementing. Only thing is, this was not true for like 4 years back or 3 years back, when it was not that much stable product. Now cloud ERP is getting more and more stable, and you will see 2021 that all this Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 company who are the EBS client, they will be shifting to cloud very soon. And other good aspect, you will see that mid-sized company would be implementing ERP, so your client base will be more. So there are more and more customers are going to use cloud ERP now, and it's fit for the mid-sized segment, it's fit for the big corporates also, and you will see that more and more project in the same space. I myself work with the large client also, I know that they are also very quick to adopt this cloud environment. And along with SaaS, they would be implementing PaaS also. So when we say customization is not possible, extension not possible, which is also not true, because now the PaaS is also coming along with SaaS. So you can whole development in the PaaS environment, integrate with the SaaS using REST API, Rave services, and all this integration platform. And that is where you will see that bigger projects would be starting this year, next year, and coming year. So
Right.
yeah, I hope I should able to answer the question. Okay, Yusuf is asking question. Great guys. So I need more participant from you.
What
We
is this
already taking a lot of
FSM?
questions.
What is FSM? Uh,
Okay, for FSM is a functional setup manager. So what should be the first step to master? Yes, so you should learn. See, as a consultant, you should be master of the product first, right? Whether it is UI, reporting options, scheduling options, setup options, approvals, look and feel, navigations, starting guides, you should be comfortable with this, and you have to master these areas. Definitely, FSM should be the place you should able to master, because now FSM is very in depth. It's not just for setup, it's for the setup, my import, export, security, finding tasks, implementation project. It's much bigger product than just considering as a setup and maintenance. Okay, great. Let's take one more question and then we'll see what Ram is having a surprise gift for all of participants. So
right.
Govind is asking
Yeah,
challenges faced from
yeah.
moving from support to implementation. Even in support, there are many ERs where while
Yeah.
end-to-end cycle is followed.
That is true. I mean, that is we discussed this earlier, and the point is true. If this question is related to support consultant moving to implementation, there are additional skills that a support consultant need to learn. So it is not that support
Right,
doesn't have support also has many, but at the end of the day, support is you are working on somebody else's implementation, right? So to
right.
that extent, you have very less opportunity to make those processes better because they are already frozen and all that stuff.
Right, right. Great. So I think we covered the questions also. So Ram will take up
Review
more
of
questions and
satisfaction, if
information.
you share from EBS to Fusion, what is the review satisfaction? I don't know. Those Sanjay's question, satisfaction, I don't know. I can
Uh,
tell it from my
let me
perspective.
let me take that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So question is what? Sanjay question is customer who are moving from EBS to Fusion. What are their review or satisfaction? If you can share your from your experience. So yes, so I personally have worked more than 10 implementation last 5 years on cloud ERP, and I can say yes, they still using cloud ERP. So they often definitely they are happy and satisfied, and with the new features, with the new way of working on cloud, so definitely they are happy. More and more customers are using it, and you will see a lot more project. Obviously, because of current situation, you won't see many new project, but once the situation get better, you will see a flux of project in cloud ERP.
There's one question from yeah, this question. Why to learn multiple projects? I see. See, though I just want to take one point which Shiv mentioned a little earlier. The paradox is that a customer is selecting a consultant for his product skills, but the success of the implementation depends on his business skills. If he can't understand the business requirement clearly, knowing any product, whatever in depth, you are not going to make the customer happy. But if you know the business well, but if you don't know what are the features in the product, then also the customer is going to be unhappy. In one project, I've seen both these situations. So it is. I can say that it is relatively easier to learn product than the process, the business processes spend, because see, business processes are permanent knowledge. The way customer is going to create purchasing GRN, that they're not going to change. But if you are a 11A supply chain guy, you will be at C in release 12. If you are a release 12 guy, you will be at C. For example, SLA configuration. SLA configuration is totally different in EBS and in Fusion. So if your bread and butter is focused only on learning the product, then once the product changes, who moved my cheese situation will be. So you should spend, in my opinion, 70% of the time understanding the business part and 30% of the time understanding the product part, because mapping the business to the product is all. See, again, I'm saying as a consultant, you are going to implement product only. So become a product expert. But definitely product expertise is required, but you need to understand that product is there to meet the business, provide solution to the business, so without also have a clarity of business requirements. That balance, fine balance that you have to attain. So even I have seen very senior consultants struggling with this particular balance. Product experts, but
Right.
customer tells business and they are not able to answer the question. Why? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Next,
Very lengthy session. It's almost like
I
we
know.
are
I will.
touching 2 hours now.
So what we'll do is I will just take you through the next slide and we'll stop it. And my
Yeah.
contact details will be there. And this slide is also available, so you can download this presentation. And in case you have some specific questions, you can always, send an email. I'll be very happy to help. I would rather that you go to my blog and put your questions in the comment section so that I can answer, so that others can also benefit. I don't have a problem in answering
Yeah,
individual questions. Huh?
I'm sharing your blog link also to guys so they can
Yeah, sure.
quickly
Okay,
go and
fine. So let me go back to my final slide. So this is the participant bonus, what I was mentioning. So first is this, I've given the URL where I have put a Google Drive of my presentation. So you can check that presentation in that Google Drive. Like I mentioned, I have a book published on ERP. It is called Selected Articles on ERP. So I have made this book free download, Kindle edition, free download for 3 days, starting from tomorrow. So in case you guys want to download, this is free download for 3 days. So I have given the links where you can buy the book. The book name is Selected Articles in ERP. So I'll just put it here. So it's available in Amazon.
yes.
You can get it. So for this part, this is I'm just informing all of you that you can download it and you can read. Even the Kindle app is free for you, so you can download. And only my request is not a demand. The request is that in case you find get to download the book and read it, please drop comments in the Amazon against this book. Please update your review comment so that I'm planning to update this book with some more, incorporating the reader requirements. I have not done any marketing for this book. I just put that book. It was a self-published book. It is there, and so you can download the book. That is my gift for spending time with me for the last almost 2 hours. So thank you
So
so
Ram, we
much.
have to download tomorrow, right? Today it's showing $2.80. To
No,
tomorrow it would be
tomorrow.
free.
Yeah, tomorrow,
Okay.
June 1, 2, and 3. 3 days.
Okay. Great. So
Yeah.
guys, this is really a great gift from Ram for all of us that this book will be free. Its regular price is $5. He's keeping it free for 3 days. So better download what Kindle version and share with your friends also. And I'm definitely going to download and read it and share my feedback. Definitely, I learned so many things from Ram, and really grateful for Ram to sharing this knowledge. A lot of people think that sharing knowledge is like sharing your secret sauce, success sauce, right? But I feel Ram share like a flower fragrance, right? The more you spread, the more happiness will be around. So thanks Ram for your 2 hours long session, and thanks for all our my friends followers who joined this session and stay with us for almost 2 hours. So great. On Sunday evening, stay safe, stay home. Now we are closing the session. So hope this is very knowledgeable and useful session for everybody. Stay in touch. I share all the links, and Ram's information also we share, and I will updating the same information on our Facebook group. So you can, if you are already member, you will see that information. If not, you can join our Facebook group. We having our next master class would be on Tuesday. So we covering up cloud reporting section right now. We already done our 3 classes. Now this is our 4th classes. So 3 classes still remaining. So you can join Tuesday, Friday, 7:30 p.m. and get the benefit of that free class also. So great. Thanks, Ram. Uh, thanks everybody. Take care. Good night.
Bye. Good night.